On today's episode of the Ango Show, we're going to be talking about a variety of topics such as superstars returning, superstars not returning, injuries. I mean, there's just a lot of stuff. Plus, El Grande Americano, a new version of that major change. We're talking about it right here, right now. And if you guys want more videos like this, don't forget to click that subscribe button. Trust me, you never want to miss a video on this channel. But of course, today we're going to kick things off with a very interesting story. What is the reason why Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne are not on WWE television? And trust me, this is a very important conversation to have because these guys have not really been panning out on the WWE main roster, which is really unfortunate. And a lot of people expected this to have a whole different outcome considering the fact that these guys were Triple H guys, especially in NXT. However, Brian Alvarez, Dave Meltzer are talking about this, and they said both of them are injured. So Tyler Bate was injured for a long period of time, comes back, they do their tag team stuff, they lose on Raw, and now it turns out they're both injured. This is obviously very unfortunate. This is very, very problematic as well because Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate are incredibly gifted in the ring. And I think one of the reasons why it hasn't necessarily worked out for them on the main roster is, yes, they are talented in the ring, but I don't think they are building a strong connection with the fan base in attendance of the shows. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons why they haven't necessarily worked out. And so when you have the fact that like Tyler Bate gets injured for a long period of time, Pete Dunne does some solo stuff, then Pete Dunne returns, and then Tyler Bate returns, then both guys end up getting injured. Like, they're already having a hard time as it is to connect to the audience. Now they're being removed from TV. There's literally zero momentum for these guys, and I think that's why it's not necessarily working out for them. I don't know if WWE is going to have a plan change for these guys, but when they're both returning from injury, I think it really needs to be talked about as to whether or not they should be solo or be in a tag team. But obviously the tag team division doesn't get as much love as, you know, the mid card and stuff like that. So it's something to definitely pay attention to. Definitely something that I find to be concerning. I really just don't know what's next. I feel like at this point it's kind of just like over with for these guys. But of course, it's the WWE. You never know. Triple H might figure something out, and maybe he does, and hopefully he does. But right now, it just seems that it's not working necessarily. That brings us to our next topic, ladies and gentlemen. We should talk about it. El Grande Americano is injured. Chad Gable injured, right? We talked about this. And then yesterday on WWE Raw, a lot of people were like, well, what the hell? Chad Gable's injured. He's not going to be on TV. And then El Grande Americano appears. Now, there has been this long-standing joke or this long-standing thing on the internet that El Grande Americano this entire time has alternated between Ludwig Kaiser and Chad Gable. Now, I don't know if that is necessarily true, but during WWE Raw last night, there was a segment where Chad Gable was with Adam Pearce and an American Made, and lurking in the background was Ludwig Kaiser. Ludwig Kaiser was lurking in the background, and then later on in the night, this is who we see. Now, I know this sounds kind of crazy, but Ludwig Kaiser playing El Grande Americano actually kind of makes a lot of sense. And I don't know if WWE is ever going to truly reveal that El Grande Americano is Ludwig Kaiser, but I do believe that in the meantime, especially with Chad Gable being off of television, this is the way that they're going to go moving forward. Now, the funny thing about this is Ludwig Kaiser is a freaking insane, talented individual. And I love this guy. I think him and Chad Gable are both like quality superstars in the WWE. And the fact that like Ludwig might be cosplaying as El Grande Americano isn't actually a big deal to me. But I'm hoping that WWE isn't making this a storyline and he's only there because of Chad Gable being injured, which I think is kind of fun because everybody says El Grande Americano is Chad Gable. Obviously he is, but now Chad Gable's off TV. El Grande Americano will continue to wrestle. It's an interesting thing, right? Now, one thing I do kind of want to throw out there though, for a long time, people have thought that it was alternating between Ludwig and Chad Gable because there had been scenarios in which Chad Gable, you know, everybody knows Chad Gable has a tattoo, and there would be times where you see El Grande Americano without it, and that's why people would think it's Ludwig. So I'm curious to see if this is WWE's way of essentially just saying, hey, Ludwig Kaiser, Chad Gable alternate between the outfit, but for storyline purposes, it's only based on Chad Gable. Something to definitely pay attention to. I really don't know what WWE's long-term play is here, but Ludwig Kaiser should be doing more on TV, and he should be actually on TV in some major storylines. I'm really confused as to why he's not being used at all prominently. And that brings us to our next topic. Ladies and gentlemen, Drew McIntyre is back in the WWE. We had no idea when this guy would be returning. We had no idea at all how serious his injury was. We know this guy has been incredibly beat up. And now Drew McIntyre is back in WWE. Last night, WWE was in Pittsburgh. They taped Raw. They taped SmackDown. There's dark segments and stuff like that. Drew McIntyre was there. Drew McIntyre did appear. Now the real question is, what exactly is WWE's plan? Now, we haven't seen Drew McIntyre since Saturday night's main event against Damian Priest. So a lot of people are curious as to whether or not Drew McIntyre was like legitimately injured, or did he just have a period of time off based on the fact that he's just kind of been beat up and working a lot in the past year and a half, 2 years. But Drew McIntyre coming back is totally needed. I want to see some stuff with Drew McIntyre and Cody Rhodes. I want to see, not, and it's nothing against John Cena personally, but like maybe it's time for John Cena to drop the belt and then have some legitimate feuds for Cody, such as Drew McIntyre, Randy Orton, that kind of thing. But also Drew McIntyre just coming back in general makes a lot of sense. He's absolutely needed. This is somebody who is really, really talented, and he's a very big part of WWE programming. And when Drew McIntyre is gone, you definitely feel it. And I feel like this guy has reached a level, even without being a world champion, he has reached a certain level of just like top guy stuff. And that's one of the things that I really, really appreciate and really love to see. So we'll obviously see how that all transpires and what WWE does next. But Drew McIntyre is back. He did appear. Now we'll see what makes the cut for SmackDown. Was it a dark segment? That kind of thing. But the guy is clearly not as injured as once originally thought. So that is obviously a very good thing. And that brings us to our final topic, ladies and gentlemen. We got to talk about this. Saraya apparently is not in talks with WWE for a return. There has been this belief that she was leaving AEW. She asked to leave AEW. A lot of people speculated that she was doing this so that way she could come back to WWE. That doesn't actually appear to be the case. She has come out and said that she's not had talks with WWE as far as a return goes. And I'm kind of confused here because I feel like Saraya, aka Paige, is somebody who may not even be cleared by WWE doctors, right? But obviously she did wrestle a little bit in AEW. She obviously won the title in AEW. Her split off from AEW was kind of interesting to me, because I mostly thought, okay, just as everybody else is speculating, she's leaving AEW to go back to WWE. The fact that she's coming out and saying she's not having talks with WWE either tells me two things. One, she is in fact really just not in talks with WWE, or she is in talks with WWE, but she wants to keep it quiet. Of course, with WWE Evolution 2 in just a couple weeks, I have to wonder if maybe she makes a surprise appearance. Maybe this is all a bluff. Maybe this is her pulling a prank on everybody, trying to hide the surprise. Obviously, we really don't know, but we will see what happens as time goes on. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching The Ango Show.